Welcome to Cooking with Bobby Joe. Today we're going to be making some fried squash and fried fish. We haven't had a fried meal in a few weeks, and I picked my first squash from the garden, and the first squash needs to be fried up. If you've never had fried squash, you've been missing out. Now, most people fry up more than one squash at a time, but I'm cooking for just two, so we're just going to do one squash. You want to start by heating your oil over medium heat, then wash and slice your squash. I usually like to pick my squash when they're a little smaller than this. Once squash start growing, they grow quickly, so if you don't check on them daily, they may get bigger than you want. The good news is even the big squash are good fried up. I soak mine in buttermilk. I used to buy buttermilk in the dairy section at the grocery store, but when we started counting calories, we weren't using it as much and it would expire before we used it. So I invested in this powdered buttermilk. You can find it on Amazon and at some of the Whole Foods stores. Amazon's prices have been going up lately a lot on stuff like this. I'm not sure if people are stocking up again because of the new strain of COVID and sellers are price gouging, or if that imaginary inflation is messing with my eyes when I look at the prices. Either way, this Anthony's Premium Buttermilk Powder is really good. I'm using 2 tablespoons of powder and a half a cup of water. Just whisk it until it's smooth. I let it sit a couple of minutes to thicken and then add in the squash. And with clean hands, mix your squash slices around in the buttermilk. I should have probably done a cup of buttermilk so it would cover it better, but I figured I didn't need that much with just one squash, but I guess I figured wrong. Then I get another mixing bowl and I add in 1 cup of all-purpose flour, or you can use self-rising. I'm out of self-rising, so I'm going to add in 2 tablespoons of cornstarch and 1 tablespoon of baking powder and mix all of that together. If you're using self-rising, don't add the baking powder. Then you can add salt, pepper, and whatever seasonings you like. I'm leaving out the salt because I'm using garlic powder and onion powder, and that has a little salt in it. Mix that together and then add in your squash slices. Using your clean hands, make sure the squash is coated with the flour mixture. Then test your oil to make sure it's hot enough. Drop a little flour or batter into the skillet to see if it sizzles. If it sizzles, it's ready. Mine's a little too hot because I can see some smoke coming off of it. It'll cool down once I start adding the squash slices to it though. So add the squash slices to the skillet, and while that is frying, we're going to go get our flounder ready. It doesn't take long for the squash to fry, just a couple of minutes on each side. Once it starts turning a golden brown, it's ready to come out of the oil. I took the buttermilk I had the squash in and I poured it over my flounder fillets. I'm going to let that soak while I go turn the squash over. And I've got a pie plate. I'm just going to put my cornmeal in it. There are so many different ways to bread fish. I change it up all the time, but today I'm going to be using Martha White cornmeal. I don't measure it. I just kind of estimate how much I will need. There's always some left over. Then I'm going to add in some onion powder, garlic powder, and Cajun seasoning. And I just take my clean hand and I mix it all together. Then you want to dip your fish fillets into the cornmeal mixture and make sure you coat them on both sides. Then I'm going to let those rest here while I go get my squash out of the skillet. Dip your squash onto a paper towel lined plate. Those are some good looking squash. The oil looks cloudy from the flour we used on the squash, but that's okay, it'll cook just the same. Y'all, Diane is telling me about it. When the dog that lives clear on the other side of the park starts barking, she starts barking. There's a hound dog over there. I call him Hank. I have no idea what his name is, but he reminds me of a Hank. Anyway, Diane and Hank bark back and forth at each other all day long. They can't see one another, but they can hear. So they have a conversation. Drop your fish into the oil. It will fry 4 to 5 minutes on each side. Once it is browned, it's time to turn it. Once they are done, dip the fish onto a paper towel lined plate, and that's all there is to it. Then you share it with all your human friends. I can't believe I forgot to get Steve to review this. He gave it 2 thumbs up and said it was drill worthy. He even liked the squash, and he isn't a veggie guy. Well, thanks for watching. Stay tuned Friday for our next episode of the Lake Hill City Birds. I'm still trying to get some footage because it has rained for a few weeks here, and I don't have a covered porch to sit on at this house. But I will post something on Friday. Y'all have a blessed week. Bye for now.